But there actually is a really good place and time. For example, when pediatricians are asking questions in front of kids, kids do need to learn how to speak for themselves and advocate for themselves. So I think there is a place and time for that.
Yeah.
That's just not how I operate in our services.
Welcome to the Business Growth Masterclass, where business growth is made simple. I'm your host, Albert Gillespie.
And I'm your co-host, Kellen Ketchersid. Join us as we bring you stories from business leaders so you can learn from their wins, their losses, and everything in between.
Today's guest is the owner of Playroom Lubbock, a therapy practice that offers play therapy for children and emerging adults. Welcome to the podcast, Miss Kelly Martin.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you.
This is exciting. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Yeah,
Thanks.
we've been looking forward to it.
It's nice to get to have conversations and get out of the playroom. So
I'll bet. And so I'm pretty ignorant, and I want to explain to our listeners what do you guys do at the Playroom? What is play therapy? Okay. What do you guys do?
Yes. So play therapy is a mental health intervention for children, and it can be used across the lifespan, but it is the developmentally most appropriate way to do counseling with kids. And it can help them work through any kind of developmental, emotional, behavioral concern that they have or disorder that they might have. But they use the therapeutic powers of play to communicate about their internal world. And so a trained play therapist, which is a licensed mental health professional, is trained to know how to use play therapeutically in that setting.
That is so cool. Just I've heard that kids learn from play, and so it makes sense. But until I met you, it was just such a new concept to me. And obviously, like, it works and it's great for kids. How did you even get into this in the first place?
Yeah, so I got my undergraduate degree at Lubbock Christian University, and I was already in the psychology program thinking I wanted to be a therapist. And I already knew I wanted to work with kids, but I'd never heard of play therapy. This was in 1999. And they offered a course that one semester, and it was an introduction to play therapy. And I took it and I thought, this is it. I heard angels singing. I was like, this is the route that I want to go. And so, I knew that I developed rapport really easily with kids. And so that felt most congruent to my personality and what I wanted to do. And so from there, I said, I want to go to the best training program there is for that. And I went on to get my master's at the University of North Texas, which is a renowned program for play therapy.
That's awesome. So I can see how that would be super fulfilling and motivating, but I'm curious, what day to day is the most motivating thing or gives you the most purpose in your work?
Yeah. So it can be difficult to walk through people with really difficult experiences and hold that space for people. Yeah. And so I was thinking about this earlier. It's I go back to catching a gleam in a child's eye. So whenever I feel the heaviness of what I do and the heaviness of content or of feeling the pressure of parents wanting me to fix things, I go back to the gleam I find in a child's eye, and I just find some presence being with kids. And that is actually what really motivates me, that I don't want to get away from actual client work. There's other things that I do in my profession that's not service-based with actual children, but I don't want to get away from that because that is where my heart is.
Yeah, that's awesome. That makes so much sense.
Can you, I struggle with abstract. Can you kind of walk me through kind of what treatment looks like? What does that look like, from kind of broad strokes, start to finish, working with the child? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So typically parents will give us a call. They might hear from us from a pediatrician or other referral source, and we set up a parent session with them. And so I want to hear about a child, their developmental history, what the parents concerns are about the child. And we do that all without the child present, because I want parents to have an unfiltered space to talk about it, to talk about their child in a way that their kid may not quite understand or perceive. So just to protect their sense of self. And then we set up weekly sessions usually for their child. So play therapy is typically once a week. Sessions range between 6 to 30 sessions for a whole treatment. And then I like to check in with parents about once a month. And that's where parents can receive information about my thoughts on progress. We share information about current situations. And I also provide support to parents in knowing how to support their child's growth and development.
I love that. There are times whenever we're speaking with our pediatrician, who we love, but she'll be asking us questions about our kids right in front of them. And I always am so uncomfortable if it's something that I feel like, I don't want them to think they're being stigmatized or, like we're just, as parents, bringing up concerns. But I love that you create a space for your parents to speak with you in private so that the kid, isn't necessarily hearing that conversation, and vice versa, right? Where you're kind of protecting the space with the kids so that they can be free to play and
absolutely. So kids do have a right to privacy. And so I don't divulge all the ins and outs of a play therapy session with parents. I just give them the meat, the gist of what I'm learning about them. But there actually is a really good place and time. For example, when pediatricians are asking questions in front of kids do need to learn how to speak for themselves and advocate for themselves. So I think there is a place and time for that. That's just not how I operate in our services.
Yeah. I agree. I'm not trying to be critical of my pediatrician. I'm just saying it is nice though to have that where you can, as a parent, express concerns or questions and not have your kids worried that you're thinking bad things or anything like that.
Right. Because it's usually very emotional and lots of fears behind what parents are discussing. So,
yeah.
Okay. So this is a business improvement podcast.
Yep.
And some of our listeners might be wondering, why do we have a child psychology play therapist on here? And part of this is you're a business owner.
Yeah.
You have your own business that you have you started, you have grown this, and you have operations. And what I want to say to the listeners right now is, especially when you're in a service industry where there's a lot of licenses and specialty training and certifications that your entire staff requires, there's a method to the madness of how you build a business, how you recruit employees, train your employees, support your employees, and how you incentivize and pay them. And so I would love to talk a little bit about the business. How did you, so the Playroom Lubbock, tell me the origin story of that. How'd you get started?
Yeah. So it is a private practice. And I actually went to the pediatrician with my then 18-month-old, and he knew that I was a licensed counselor. And he said, "Hey, I've got a lot of patients I want to send to you. Can you just open up a little practice real quick so I can send you?" And I was like, "No, I'm gonna be a stay-at-home mom for a little bit." Well, from there, it lit a spark in me, and so I started dreaming and thinking, okay, I could make this into something. And so I wanted to create a practice that included a lot of different types of services for kids, kind of like wraparound care. So if they had a lot of different needs, it'd be kind of like a one-stop shop. And by the way, to this day, that pediatrician never sent one referral to me. He's not in practice anymore. But so my business has evolved quite a bit from where I started to where I am now. But I knew I didn't want to be a solo practitioner. I wanted to be surrounded by other people with a like-minded mission and focus. And so I evolved from subleasing space in a very large space to eventually becoming a group private practice where I contracted employees or contracted contractors, and then to a group practice where I had employees. And then now most recently, I'm giving you the sped up version. Most recently, I've downsized in my building and in my number of employees. And so I'm just kind of refining and refocusing now.
So real quick, I feel like we've all had those moments in our life when someone like speaks into you, or like they say something that offhand you're like, no, I would never do that. I can't do that. But just someone speaking into you and like telling you that they believe in you, they see something in you. I think we all have those moments in our lives, and that's just cool that it's that vivid and that like concrete of this pediatrician told me this, and I couldn't shake it after that.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
And most business owners have somebody that did that for them. And most business owners also have a much longer list of people who are like, you're going to do what? And it's not always easy to make that leap when you first do something new. But, or make a change like you just described, like downsizing your business or moving into a different space that's smaller, but maybe more intimate and more aligned with what you want to do. Can you talk a little bit about that actually, and just share with us a bit about this recent move that you made and kind of what your plans are for it?
Yeah. So I did recently downsize within the last 2 weeks, and it's really been kind of a year in progress up until this point. And so I started noticing trends in my operating costs going up, and me feeling like I'm scrambling to find qualified child therapists. And so that it's just harder to find people that want to specialize in play therapy. And it also is a niche and modality that is hard to receive training in, especially in West Texas. And so I started noticing those operating costs going up. My caseload was getting huge so that I could keep things going as they are. And I had a huge space to fill. And I was not adequately using all the space that I had. I wasn't efficiently using that. And so a big part of it was me emotionally letting go of this big dream that I had, this big inspiration that caught a hold of me, when that pediatrician lit a spark in me. It's like, well, now I've got to extinguish that. And so there was a little bit of grief of letting that go. But once I kind of wrapped my head around, okay, let me just explore what's out there. And a lot of that had to do with when I began the mastermind class with you all, and just some of the questions that you brought to my mind. It's like, okay, let's get curious. I encourage parents to get curious with their kids. Can I get curious about what's out there? And so I started envisioning what it could look like. And lo and behold, I found the space that really aligns with where I'm headed.
That's great. And I love that's again, putting on that business owner hat that Albert was talking about a minute ago, and realizing like what I'm doing right now doesn't really make sense, the expenses and everything. So even though we're talking about downsizing, it really can be an upgrade to your business and overall big picture and what it means for you in the long term. So I love that. And I think there's a lesson in that for a lot of business owners who are listening.
I'm just briefly, this is one of those things we always go through in coaching, is looking at what you're doing, like looking at your offerings, your different services that you provide to the public, and looking at like, what do people actually want and what is actually profitable?
Yeah.
And given that, how do your operations need to change? And I love how open you were through that process of, we do have a lot of wasted space and we're paying rent on that, and we're paying rent by the foot. And so if we could find a space that is more tailored to exactly what you guys do, exactly what you've been in business for multiple years now, that, hey, we're really good at this, the public really wants that. And so how can we find a space that can accommodate that as efficiently as possible, that that helps out on the expense side, it makes operations easier, and it just makes a healthier and more profitable business.
So any business owner is, got to think about, where am I going to do business? How does this space make sense, and the expense line for it? And then I'm also thinking about my team. And one thing that I think, Albert was saying earlier, listeners might be wondering, why do we have a therapist on? It's like, there's so many overlaps, because as a therapist, you also have a craft that you do that you are excellent at. And yet sometimes you're going to bring in these, parents and kids, and you're not always going to be their assigned therapist, I assume.
Correct.
Okay. And so, for a business owner out there, like maybe they started out because they love doing the thing that they, that drives the business. and now it's starting to be successful, and they've got to bring on team members who also handle that. Now, how do you make the decision of when you're going to take on a case versus hand it over to somebody on the team, and just what you're thinking there?
Sure. It's mostly based upon the client need. And so if they're going to require a higher level of experience, I will probably take on that client. And so if it's more of developmental nature, because I have more specialized training in that, or a higher level of trauma, I will probably take that on. So I like to bring on counselors who are working on their clinical license. And so I'm a supervisor. And so that means that they're under my supervision, but they have less experience. And then I also have graduate student interns who are very fresh in the field, but they're also under my supervision and training. And so I want our clients to receive the best care. And so some of that is dependent upon experience and training.
That's great. So you're a teacher, yes, to some of these interns, while also helping them to learn to do the therapy. And I see so many analogies here. Business owners, you bring on your team, there may still be a segment of the business that needs somebody to operate at the highest level possible. And so as a business owner, maybe that's the part you keep while you still delegate off to members of the team. And I would imagine that strategy of bringing in fresh blood with your interns, that's something else that business owners, I think, in Lubbock need to think about. Is we're in a university town. We've got South Plains College, Texas Tech, Lubbock Christian. I think there's a branch at Wayland. So there's a lot of young talent.
I get a lot from West Texas A&M.
Okay. Yeah. And so what has that done for you and your business? Like, what energy level does that bring to the room? And, just speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So it actually really challenges me to stay current in best practices, it helps me with stay current in building a team, and putting in different things in place for that. So, It's difficult to find, again, people that specialize in kids. And so having a pool of potential therapists that are feeling out the field and being able to draw from that pool of graduate students has actually been really helpful in hopefully retaining them through the next stage, which is after they graduate, they have to work on their license. And so that can't happen in less than 2 years. And so if I can retain them through that, then they might decide to go off and do something else, or maybe they want to stay with me and be a fully licensed counselor. So I've kind of figured out that that's the best way to scoop up some people that are interested in children. And I get to train them in the ways that I feel like is best for my practice. But I have to vet out quite a few people as well. So like interviewing them well, really getting an idea for what they are interested in, what their skill set is really important.
To our listeners listening, how would you how do you go about getting in touch with these people to have those people show up on your front door or email you a resume? How do you get that set up?
Yeah. So one easy way is I am an adjunct professor at Lubbock Christian University. And so in the undergraduate program. But I will email the graduate program department chairs and let them know all the surrounding ones. So West Texas, Permian Basin, Tech, Wayland, all of the surrounding programs, and let them know that I'm available for internship experiences. And I really look for students who are willing and available to commit to about 3 semesters, because it's a ton of training that I pour into them. And so, I just reach out to the program chairs and let them know I'm available, because students are looking for placements all the time for their practicums and internships.
That's it seems like a no duh thing, but especially Lubbock Christian, I'm a graduate there, plugged in there. They're a lot more approachable than you would think. Going to a website, looking up different departments and where people are getting certain degrees that are relevant to your industry, and then just contacting the professors. That's such a easy thing to do. And a lot of the interns that we've gotten over the years have simply been that. And it's so easy. And you get like young, hungry, and a lot of times you get the cream of the crop because you were asking these professors, "Hey, who would you recommend? Who are some of these kids that I need to have come intern?" And we've just had tremendous luck, and really found very talented, well-rounded kids.
Yeah, one of my employees was my student at one time.
That's great.
Yeah.
I would imagine that kind of creates a potential pipeline of talent right into your business if you're just thinking in that way and building those relationships over time. Previous jobs that I've had, that was a strategy that we used at the university, and it was great for us. And especially if you can get the kids in that department talking about how much they love, working as an intern in your business. I mean, now you really are going to have something special there. So that's cool. But you were mentioning earlier, you also want to vet, and so what I guess I've got two questions here. One is, how are you identifying the best people to bring in that are interns that are interested? Like, what are the key things you're looking for? And then the other thing that was just kind of confusing to me is, I'm surprised that more people don't want to do play therapy that are coming through these programs. You would think that working with kids would be a really rewarding, fulfilling thing for a lot of people. So is that part of what you're looking for in these interns? How does that all play together?
Yeah. Well, one problem is most of the graduate programs in this region do not offer play therapy courses. So they're not exposed to play therapy. They maybe don't know that it exists, or they don't even have the prerequisite training that I require for them to be an intern. And so when somebody contacts me, and by the way, it's usually through an email. And if that email is not worded professionally, and if they don't show that they even know a little bit about play therapy or even about the Playroom Lubbock, it's a no-go. So that's pretty important to me, that first email. But I let them know what the requirements are for them to be a grad student. And one of them is to either have taken a graduate course in play therapy, which is not really offered in this area, or I give them several resources to obtain continuing education hours in play therapy that are available virtually or in person everywhere. So and then I have a series of interviews that I do with them to kind of feel out what their goals are, what they envision as being a therapist, and have, of course, certain interview questions that kind of draw out things that I'm looking for.
That's great. Just looking for that true interest, right? True passion behind what, why do you want to be here?
Yeah.
Are you really doing the homework to know about the playroom before you apply?
Yeah.
And then I think it's insightful to know kind of the weaknesses or the lack of programs that are specific to what you do. So that might be another lesson for some listeners out there. If you've got a niche business and you're looking for young talent, kind of knowing what the programs are in these local universities and what's the best overlap and what may not be there.
Yeah.
So you know kind of what you're up against right off the bat.
And I will say, I'll do a little plug for LCU. They're having me come back and teach Intro to Play Therapy for an undergraduate class. I was the one that taught it 5 years ago, and that was the first time it was offered since I took it. And then there's some other talks that I'm having with the department chair of plans that they have for their graduate program. So that's really encouraging that they're seeing the value of play therapy for kids, and they want to prepare their students who are interested in that field.
I will take all the LCU plugs you can give, but I think that's maybe not intuitive, but the smaller universities, the smaller, even private universities, they're a little more nimble and agile, where you have brought in interns. They see there's a need. There are jobs out there that maybe they need to offer a different class that the market is asking for. And so I think a lot of the business owners listening, if there's a need, if there's like a skill set in your market that you're not getting, go reach out to the smaller universities and make the ask. Ask for the interns. Let them know like what skill set you're needing. And that's one of those like untapped, talent resources that it maybe isn't super intuitive, but that's like your exhibit A. They have a new class that they're offering now, and that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep telling these tech professors that are internship professors, I'm like, you need a play therapy class and I will teach it. So
build that program for them. Yeah. That's amazing. This is shifting gears a little bit, but we've talked, and of course, as you mentioned earlier, you've been in our mastermind program, which has been great. And through that, I know that you have a big heart for underprivileged families and people from challenged backgrounds, and maybe financially can't afford to go through therapy. Can you just talk a little bit about what you see for your vision, your strategy to reach those families in the future? And maybe even think about how it might parallel for people who are looking to get into, an area of their business that has to do with those same strategies. Like maybe that has to do with grant funding or something like that. Can you just speak to that a bit?
Yeah. So, there's wonderful nonprofit counseling agencies out there, or like community agencies. But since I'm in the private practice world, and managed care and going through Medicaid can be pretty problematic and not sustainable. Plus, there's other barriers for underprivileged kids, like just getting to the playroom is not reasonable.
Don't have a ride sometimes.
Yeah, they don't have a ride. Or maybe there's different barriers to committing to the process. And so it's been heavy on my heart on how to reach some of these kids. And hopefully, and this is still in the works, but I can contract with a state-funded early childhood education program to bring me into their sites and provide play therapy at their sites. So they've identified students in their early childhood education programs that need this service. And so I'll just be kind of traveling around doing that on a certain day of the week. I'm not leaving Playroom, but I'll incorporate it to the extent that I am able to. But hopefully that could also work into being able to send graduate students to be able to do that. And then they can get further experience, because that is a different level of experience going to a school and providing play therapy and traveling. But I think that could be a really rich experience for beginning counselors too.
Yeah, that sounds like an exciting plan, and that you're going to be very well thought out before you take action, which I think is smart. There's a lot of business owners that, we talk about it. Sometimes you just need to jump in and figure it out as you go. But at the same time, having a good strategy and kind of thinking through all the steps first, obviously, is a good way to go. And there's a balance there, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Maybe jumping in before we're fully comfortable, but at the same time, giving it enough thought before, we make a mess of things.
Yeah. And again, this opportunity came about by somebody approaching me. And so it was something that was on my heart, but it was a person that saw something and approached me about it. It's like, okay, let me entertain this thought. So, yeah.
Cool. I'm going off script a little bit here, but I have to ask this question. And again, it's one that I'm asking because I know you, but I think you in particular are a business owner who seems to have some balance in other areas of your life. I know you're really into CrossFit, you're a writer. So can you speak a little bit about how, as a business owner, you maintain a healthy work-life balance and kind of what you do that works for you that others could learn from?
Sure. So first of all, I have a really large threshold for managing a lot of different tasks. And so I know that about me. And I have a high capacity for stress. That doesn't mean that that's always healthy. It's something I always have to keep myself in check about. One book that I read a couple of years ago, it's called Sacred Strides by Justin McRoberts, but it really helped me gain a better sense of he uses the word belovedness, or you could use the word worthiness or self-worth, and a balance between work and rest. And so I have a very strong work ethic, and that could lead me to overworking and neglecting some of my restful needs to restore my mental health or my soul or parts of me that's not work related. And so I have to remind myself I don't constantly have to be producing something, that there can be rest and fulfillment in that and just who I am. But that's always something I'm coming back to. But that book was actually really super helpful.
That's awesome. We'll have to check that out. So what was the name again?
Sacred Strides.
Sacred Strides. Okay. Well,
I love it. I mean, from getting your practice started to being plugged into LCU and building your talent pool to now this new venture that we're going out into all these different rural communities, being intentional, looking at, different government programs and things that can make that sustainable and make that leap a lot less scary. Mm-hmm. There's so many business lessons in each and every one of those things.
Yeah. What are you most excited about for the future of Playroom Lubbock?
Ooh, right now I just want to settle into where I'm at. And so while I have my sights set on a few things, I just want to capture that gleam in kids' eyes again, because I feel like I lost that for a bit trying to scramble and make some of these hard business choices. But for now, I just want to feel a bit settled, and then that inspiration is going to kick in, and I'll put another big thing into motion.
Great. Yeah, sometimes you need those periods to just be in this space that you've already been working so hard for. So that's great. Okay, I think we're ready for a fire round. What do you think, Albert?
Ooh, let's do it.
I'm getting sweaty.
All right. What's one tool or system that you couldn't live without in running your practice?
I would say my electronic management system, where we keep our clinical notes, billing, scheduling. It's all electronic, and some people complain about the price, and it's worth it to me.
What software is that?
It's called Simple Practice.
Simple Practice. Okay.
It's not exclusive to mental health professionals, but other types of therapists too.
Yeah, I think any tool like that is so powerful for a business. We promote using our CRM, Stag CRM. That's another that's very similar to Simple Practice. But if you don't have a tool like that as a business owner, you really need one. So,
all right. If you could give every new business owner in Lubbock one piece of advice, what would it be?
It's going to go back to that work-rest balance.
Okay.
Yep.
Say more.
Finding a balance between your work roles and rest and other values, and not losing that alignment of who you're becoming and what you're doing.
All right. I love it. You've already given us one book, so I'm going to ask for another.
Okay.
Besides the Bible or the book you've already mentioned, what's a book or podcast or resource that's made a huge difference for you in your work life?
Probably Profit First.
Okay.
That was a game changer in how I dealt with my finances, because I took 0 business classes or finance classes in all of my education. And so that was really helpful, and I think helped keep me out of a financial hole.
What was your favorite insight from that book? What was something that was like, oh man, I didn't know that, and I'm changed forever now.
Right. So it guides you through a little bit of a formula to calculate what percentages you need to allocate to different accounts. And so being able to know how much I need for expenses, how much to pay myself, how much to set aside for taxes, and then some there's called a profit account. And so that profit account has actually really helped me along.
That's something that we talk about with our clients too. And it's so important. If you don't understand how to set up your accounts, how to manage your financials, you're kind of lost as a business owner. So I love that you bring that up, because with Stag Business Coaching, that's something that we also like to give our clients clarity on. Mm-hmm. And it's so empowering when you have that. Mm-hmm. So I love that you got that from that book.
The time has flown by, but how do I send people to you? How do people do business with you?
Okay. You can go to our website. We are on socials, so Facebook, Instagram. They can call. I won't answer. It'll go straight to voicemail, and or email. But I like to I usually get back to people in about 24 hours. So
okay,
yeah,
the Playroom Lubbock.
That's right.
All right, Kelly Martin. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right. If you are a business owner and you feel stuck in your business and you feel that you can't get past the current plateau that you're at, go to our website, stagcoaching.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, click to book a free consultation. And in this free consultation, we can give you a plan to get your business unstuck and get past the current plateau that you're on so that you have a more profitable, more sustainable, and healthier business. It's free and it's on our website, stagcoaching.com. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.